Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special bonus edition of Underserved. In episode 75, we interviewed Jeff Taylor, founder of Monster.com and 14 other companies, including most recently RoverTrophy.com. Jeff was generous with his time and spent a couple hours with me in the studio. The second half of his interview is in this bonus podcast. If you missed the first half of the interview, be sure to check out episode 75 of Underserved, A Monster Idea. Let's continue with Jeff.
Welcome to this week's edition of Underserved, the podcast for the rest of the tech industry, where we focus on stories of tech industry leaders, their insights, and their lessons learned. And now, your host, Andrew Gelina.
I first got to Monster in July 15th, 1999. When you guys were now in the mill, the salespeople were there, and you hadn't quite grown all the way out the carpet to the back wall where Brian Ferry was the CTO, but you could just feel the energy. Like the people are like on the phones, closing deals left and right. There was a palpable excitement and buzz there, like every day.
We moved from my little 135 Natick location where my server was in a closet into a bowling alley space above a Chinese food restaurant in downtown Framingham. I grew to about 90 or maybe 100 employees in that space. Then we started looking for a bigger space. A guy named Miller Newton that worked with us that had come from the parent company. He was very good at some of this operational stuff. Found this space in the mill. I went and looked at the mill. The mill was close to 1 million square feet, and there were only 600 square feet taken. The space we looked at was 75,000 square feet. We were coming from 10,000 square feet or even less. So we basically contracted for 35,000 square feet and said if we could grow into the space within a year and pay for it, could we actually expand into the space as we went? And I said, if I take all this space and need more, will you build me a walkway on the third or fourth floor, wherever we were, across the other building, and then I could take another contiguous space by building this walkway? They agreed to it. We ended up taking that space. We immediately needed the space. About the time you came in, I think, did we have the walkway yet?
Not yet, within a year.
And so we basically did what we said and more. And I think another principle for me in building a big company was having all of your employees in the same place was critical.
One other thing I remember is when you built out the Monster Den. That just became like the hub of the company.
Yep.
Like the breakfast stuff you had every day, the lunch stuff, having meetings there, getting a soda, the ping pong and stuff like that. Just having a place that was like a nucleus of the whole company. That was cool.
So one of the things you might or might not remember about the Monster Den is it was full of air ducts. These kind of silver pipes that were on the ceiling, and it was a high ceiling place, a really open floor plan. I got this idea to have everybody sign the pipes. So we had thousands of employees who would come either from our main location or all different locations, and everyone would sign the pipes. It's one of the things that I thought was just cool as like just to go look. I wish I still had one of those pipes because, you had the original founding, members, kind of all signed, kind of very close together. I think my DJ life merges a little bit here. That Monster Den would probably easily hold 1,400 people. And we used to do recruiting parties. At some point in my family life, I had gone from DJing full-time to DJing 4 nights a week to 3 nights a week to 2 nights a week. And I had 3 small children, and I remember talking to my wife and saying, like, I just can't do trying to run Monster and do all this stuff. And so I had stopped DJing. And my employees got my record crates and had a Monster party. I got there, and they're like, oh, who's DJing? It's like, you are. And it was the first time I DJ'd, I think, probably for about 3 years. And I DJ'd that party. And then we had a number of recruiting parties where only thing I said was bring your friends. And we would get 1,000 people at these parties. People would say, oh, do you want to meet the CEO? Like, yeah. And it's like, oh, he's DJing. Let's go up and talk to him. And it was so fun.
I can concur. I went to one of those. You meet a bunch of people that you wouldn't necessarily meet otherwise throughout the company because things were starting to get bigger and salespeople would be on the sales floor, developers on the developer floor, and so on. But that was one time when everyone would come together. And that whole thing about meeting people, and you mentioned earlier how it's kind of had a domino effect on people's lives. I met my wife there. Trisha Horan was her maiden name, was one of the best telesales reps you guys had ever seen. Met her and, we've been married ever since and have 3 daughters. And that wouldn't happen if it wasn't for Monster.
That's a really cool story. And it's one of the things that I noted. I think there's been about 30 Monster marriages. So if you think about that, you've got 800 or 900 telesales reps. So everyone is 25 years old. So you just, it's bound to happen. I remember at some of our sales events, I used to have to lay some rules down. Like you can't be the person that falls out of the elevator, The reality was that the relationships, I pretty much said you can't be in direct report relationships, but I'm very encouraging of having relationships. And I think that was something that people appreciated. But I just wanted people to be transparent about it and forthright, and worked well.
The sales conferences were legendary. Everyone wanted to get into that Westin in Boston to go out for the nightlife and all the fun stuff that happened at the end of the day.
Yeah, it's interesting. I met my second wife. We had Kool and the Gang play our sales conference, and we were all in 80s gear, and there were somewhere around 1,000 people at these sales conferences, and everybody was dancing and open bar. It was fun.